everybody, and welcome back to Welcome Grove Homestead. Today I am walking out to the goat pen. We are gonna let the babies out of the nursery. So they are they're about a week old. They have not been separated overnight. They're only separated from their moms here for a couple of hours because Bindi is still in training and we need the ability to correct her from a distance. So we need to put what I call the spicy necklace on her, which is the electric collar. She fortunately has not needed any correction with it, but she does generally behave better when it is on. So it gives us that little added insurance that she's not going to hurt any babies. She's not going to get excited and chase them. She behaves herself when she's wearing it. So if it works, that's what I'm going to do. I'd rather do that than risk any babies being accidentally hurt. So we're going to put her e-collar on and then let all these babies that have been separated from their moms for only a couple of hours come out. Now, why are the moms out? What I am doing is I milk out any excess milk that they have in the morning, and then I let them out to graze. And the e-collar just needed to be charged this morning, so usually I let the babies out with them, but it was like, they'll be fine for a couple of hours and gives the moms a little bit of a break. So all these happy little babies, and then there's these two brats that are bottle babies. Hi, Vanessa. Hi, Vanessa. Yeah. Oh, goodness. And then there's little Spruce. They're both doing good. They're on bottles. Spruce, we're going to start working on transitioning him over to cow milk so that he is ready to go to a new home, and the new owners will be able to feed him cow milk because goat milk is not as readily available. So he'll be good. So one of our projects today, in between feeding all these bottle babies, is that we're going to work on getting our onion bed ready. So we have a bunch of onions that we actually ordered, and we are getting pretty late on getting them in the ground because things have just been so crazy busy. So we are going to work on this area back here that Mom started putting some rows in. We're not exactly sure how many rows we need for all the onions that we have. So we figured this is a good starting point. We're gonna go ahead and amend, get some rabbit manure in there, and then we can start planting our little onions. And these are onion starts, not onion sets. There is a difference. Onion starts are seedlings that started from seeds this planting season, whereas a set is something that is a very small onion that kind of already started bulbing up. And generally when you start those, or plant those, you're going to end up with smaller onions versus planting a started seedling, which will start making a bulb at its appropriate time in the season. today's a little bit of a weird one just because it is insanely windy today. So I am going without my tripod because the wind is going to knock it over and end up breaking my camera. So we're gonna have to do a lot more just holding the camera. So and we're also probably gonna have to deal with more inside talking today just because of the wind. I just wanted to keep you guys apprised of what is going on with the parasites that we are dealing with in our goat herd. So as you know from a previous video, we have been dealing with some parasite issues with Mayhem in particular, fighting with some anemia, and this gets very complicated. Anyway, so what I decided to do is I ran another fecal after I had dewormed her. I dewormed her twice using chemical dewormers, and by twice I mean we did 2 of the 10-day rounds with safe meds. I tried different meds and I ran another follow-up fecal and she still had an unchanged parasite load. So we are having to pull out the big guns. And the big guns is a really strong dewormer that it's almost dangerous to use because if you overdose the animals, it can end up being really hard on them, could kill them, and it's not one that you want to just make your automatic go-to. So I've been very hesitant to do it because if the worms get resistant to this dewormer, like, you have no more options the next time. So but finally we just decided that after 2 of these rounds and her not getting any better, we either had to potentially risk her getting too weak because we were just messing around with all these safer meds, and if they weren't going to impact the worm population, she was just going to continue to decline. So we finally decided to go ahead and do prohibit. It's not something that I recommend that everybody do, but we reached a point with Mayhem where she's been constantly struggling with the anemia, and her last 2 fecals showed very little change in the worm numbers. I mean, like, the difference was like in a couple hundred of eggs per gram, but really that can vary per sample just because it's however many eggs are on the slide at a given time and you're doing a calculation. But when the numbers were that close, it was like, yeah, it had no impact. So I did go ahead and run fecals on all of the other goats that I had to deworm before, just because since we deduced that Mayhem's worms were resistant, I needed to check the other goats that I had previously dewormed and see if they were dealing with the same issue. And it turns out that yes, we have resistant worms in the herd. And so I have had to worm Mayhem and Maggie and Kitty. Those 3 all had significant worm loads, and Maggie I really strongly suspected anyway just because she was looking pretty thin, and so I ran her fecal and she actually had the highest load out of everybody. She's just been kind of hiding it because she was pregnant and she was the most recent doe that kidded, and so once she kidded, it's like she's looking pretty darn thin. So I checked everybody's condition. What I did when I went ahead and decided to give the prohibit is that every doe that was being dosed with it got a B complex shot, and I checked their FAMACHAs, and if they needed it, they got an iron shot as well. And Maggie, surprisingly, with the highest number of worms, but because she most recently kidded, she was probably experiencing a worm bloom, but she was not anemic. She was a little pale, but she wasn't like pale enough for me to feel that it was justified to give her an iron shot. So she did not get that, but she did get the B complex. Another goat that I did have to deworm is Betsy. She is still pregnant, so she could not have prohibit. Prohibit is not safe to give to pregnant goats. And I did not have to deworm her before, but she's been just kind of not acting herself, acting a little down. So I went ahead and ran a fecal on her, and she did in fact have a load of worms. I'm gonna have to revisit it after she kids, but I did deworm her with the safe meds, and so we're gonna see if that has an impact for her, because we know that she didn't have worms when I dewormed in our last round. So it's just getting crazy. But along with this deworming means that we have to do some management changes. We have resistant worms in the herd, and we need to eradicate that, because if we just deworm them and put them right back out on their pasture, they're just going to get reinfested, because they're going to be consuming grass that is touching poop that had worm eggs in it. So the best way to eradicate those worms from your herd is going to be to remove them from the pasture for 60 days. How am I going to do that with a dairy herd that needs to be milked every day? So my current plan is that the does and their babies will be put in our electric net fencing that we have from when we were raising our pigs. The pigs are now trained onto electric wire, so we don't need the nets for them. So I decided to put some nets together, and we can make our dairy goat herd mobile. And we use the nets because babies. How did you two get in? Oh, Jane. Did you find the goat house? Another project that we are working on is to expand the doe goat pasture. We have talked about doing this previously and just couldn't troubleshoot how to get the T-posts in deep enough. We have figured out our troubleshooting, so we are going to finally make progress on this now that winter is over, and we're going to be able to get these T-posts driven down and run a fence line down here, and all of this brush gets to be given to the goats, and they're going to absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yay. Got one in.
Yeah. Now you may be asking yourself, David, what is your ninja disguise? To that I have a very, very special answer.
Okay, so yesterday was way too windy to really do much more filming. We couldn't even have our tripod out there because the wind was so crazy strong it would have just blown my camera over. So we were just trying to get stuff done. Couldn't really just stand around and hold the camera. So I'll show you guys the progress on what we got done yesterday. But today we are working on planting some fruit trees. We've got apples, we've got pears, we've got peaches, we've got nectarines, and a plum. We've got lots of stuff going on. We've got our holes already drilled. We used our auger on our tractor to drill the holes, kind of give us a head start because the ground is so crazy hard with clay. So we've got these holes dug out. We're going to amend them. They're deeper than we really need them to be, so we can put some amendment on the bottom to feed the trees and get their roots really going. And every tree has kind of 2 holes drilled. So one hole we're going to fill up with compost and be able to feed the roots of the tree, and then we'll of course berm some compost around the tree. So let's get some of these holes amended and get these trees in the ground. Ah, so exciting, the beginnings of our fruit tree orchard. All right, huzzah! We got all of these trees planted. Now it is, let's see, what time is it? Oh my gosh, it's almost 6:30. I have got to go milk the goats and get them put back in their barn for the night. So we're gonna go do that. Well guys, this is definitely a weird one. So it has now taken me 3 days to film in this one vlog. So today I was going to come out with my camera earlier and get some progress on David working with the expanded dough pen. But instead I got to spend my entire afternoon working with a lamb, which more on that later. But right now we're going out to take a look at this project before I go milk the goats for the evening today. So we're gonna see the progress that he's made on this fence line. Hey you.
Hey there. We
Look at
are
that.
putting fence up. It's fantastic.
Putting
Very
fence
exciting.
up.
A goat palace, as it were.
Very exciting. All this beautiful red top fencing is gonna go down along that fence line and basically re-fence that whole fence line. This one is gonna be re-fenced because it's garbage, and there'll be a gate put in over here coming off the building so that when we want to let the goats from this pasture into here, we can do that. But it's not just free-for-all, open at any time. You can't find the goats or you can't close them off into a smaller area. It's going to make it a lot more controlled, but also so much good stuff for goats. What you doing?
Right now I'm using a come-along and a fence stretcher to get this fence that is all the way down the hill to the pond, well, segment of it, nice and tensile, nice and tight. It's not high tensile, but it's going to be tighter than that, so that's the goal anyway. For now, I'm just going to pinch my fingers and try to do my best with these things. And big thank you to my buddies Josh and Todd for coming over, totally as superheroes, helping Amanda with the goat. Sheep, you know, the white goat, and helping me out with this. That's awesome. Thank you guys. Good job.
All right, so David is going to continue working on that, and I've got to go get the goats moved out of their temporary pen back into their barn for the night and get them all milked. So I think on that note, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. As always, this is your country nerd with a goat herd saying that you can grow where you're planted.